So this is my last video of this particular series where I intend to discuss why I want to have another home birth, why I am aiming for a VBAC. I'm really trying to be very intentional about my postpartum journey, and maybe I'll make a video about that and what I have done and how I kind of planned ahead during my pregnancy for the postpartum. But I really want to aim for another home birth. We're saving all of our home birth stuff. We're putting it into totes. I plan to do it the same way I did before. I'm going to approach pregnancy the exact same way I did before. The reason I had to transfer was not something that could have been helped or avoided or prevented. It was the positioning of the baby's head. Her head was literally at a tilt, and my cervix wouldn't dilate. And so, because of the monitoring, we knew the whole time whether or not I or the baby was in distress. We lived 13 minutes away from the hospital. I had my paperwork filled out. My midwife has relationships with the doctor. She has a number that she calls, to let them know, hey, we're coming in right now, be ready. And they were ready for us. They had our room ready for us. So I do believe it's very safe. And statistically speaking, only I believe it's typical for 3 to 6%, generally speaking, 3 to 6% of home births to transfer in. So that's a pretty low number comparatively. And for those births of all the transfers, there's even a smaller percentage of the ones that are true emergencies. Most of the transfers are, I don't want to do this at home anymore. Labor is taking too long. Like, they aren't actual emergencies. My transfer was not an emergency. So that is also key. I want to do a home birth again because I want to have the experience. I want a VBAC. I want a vaginal delivery. I know I can do it. And, unless something strange happens, and we can't plan for everything, but unless something strange happens, I don't want to transfer. Now, having said that, if it becomes apparent next time I am in labor that I should be progressing, and if labor stalls, and if we can't get it up again, and if I think next time I want to try the different things sooner. I don't want a 3-day labor. I want to be very intentional about saying, hey, this is our course of action, especially now that I've experienced it. And if we are not progressing, I'll transfer, So I think next time I'm going to be much more open to transferring sooner. I think I will go through the same process if at all possible. I mean, unless we're in an emergency, there's no reason not to. I think I would start by laboring in the hospital. I'll start by Pitocin, followed by an epidural if the Pitocin on its own doesn't work, and then C-section if we have to. So I definitely want to present it in the same order of events that I did on this one, unless there is a true emergency. I feel really good about it. I think another thing I want to do very differently is when I get close to labor, like when I start getting to that 37, 38 week point of pregnancy, I want to start pumping, especially if I'm not still breastfeeding, because some women can breastfeed through pregnancy. Some women can't. Some women's hormones change and their babies don't want the milk anymore. So depending on where I am in my breastfeeding journey with my baby, I really want to start pumping. That can help induce labor also. So you want to wait until you are like ready to have the baby. But once I get to that like 37, 38 week mark, I want to start getting my colostrum collected, because if we end up in a similar situation where they are pressuring us to supplement, I want to have my own supplement on hand so that if I transfer, I can take it with me. And then if I don't, I also want to have, if possible, my own colostrum saved up. And that way, when I get to that moment, if I need to supplement, I can supplement with either my own colostrum or my formula of choice. When we supplemented with Carice, it made her so gassy and constipated, and it caused her so much pain. It made it very difficult for me to breastfeed. So I will bring like my own bottle system. I do not want to use those easy flow nipples. I want that baby to work if we ever have to do that again. And I do believe it was necessary. I think I made the best choice I could in the moment. But I think next time I'm going to hold my ground and say, hey, I have my own formula, or hey, I have my own colostrum saved up. I'm sending someone to my house to grab it, and that is how we will be supplementing. I think I will also pump a bit more earlier, just so that I'm closer to getting my milk if I am in the hospital and need it, as a measure of defense. And that's not what I would do. That isn't how I would like to do it, but I think it is worth doing it that way to avoid the pressure I faced. And that's the one thing about the hospital experience that I think I would change. One thing I might change is I might waive the bilirubin test altogether if the baby doesn't appear to be jaundice, and then do it, if I were in another transfer situation, maybe do it at home when I can do it under the care of my midwife, because she has access to bilirubin blankets and she can help with all of that if that is an issue that we face, and she's willing to take more natural approaches without the pressure. If I were at home and have my VBAC, of course, I'm going to be like, yeah, go ahead and do the heel prick. I want to know the results immediately, but I think I would be less likely to do that in a hospital setting moving forward. Unless the baby comes out and looks really jaundice, and, in that case, I might try to go ahead and just come prepared. But those preparations are things that you really have to do in advance, hoping that you don't need them, but then at least you have it together if you do. I think another thing that I want to be really mindful of next time is pet care. And because we will have a baby next time, figuring out, childcare and how are we going to handle this if we are in a situation where we have a transfer, because I'm not going to let just anyone watch my baby. And that's something like, there's probably only 2 or 3 people on the planet I would feel comfortable with. And that's not to offend anyone, and it's not to, diss anyone. It's really not anything personal. It's more about my own comfort level and honoring the convictions that I hold as a mother. So, figuring that kind of stuff out, I think I would like to do. I'm very thankful I did my meal prep in advance. I have like 40 days of food. I think we might be waking up. So I would do that again in a heartbeat. I think another thing I would love to do, if it is within our budget, is be prepared to hire a house cleaner once a week after the baby comes. Wow. So housekeeper, and I would love to be able to hire a postpartum doula. What a postpartum doula essentially does is they can help you in your recovery. They can help you with breastfeeding. They can do childcare. They'll do chores around your house. They'll do errands, stuff like that. The thing that sets them apart from just hiring like a personal assistant or a mother's helper or a babysitter is that they are very familiar with the recovery process. So I think that would be helpful, because I would love to have someone help me more. If I were to do it again, no matter what kind of delivery I have, I would love to do belly binding. And that's something I didn't really do very much on this recovery. I wish I would have, but we were going like to the chiropractor, I want to say 2 days out, a day after we got home. So we're up and doing errands and stuff, and I'd rather have someone help me with, and the reason I mentioned the errands and belly binding, it sounds silly, but I'm like wearing a diaper because I'm bleeding so much. And so the way that the belly binder hits, you can't easily wear pants or your diaper and pull it on and off. I guess I could put those things over the belly binder, but I would need another layer of cloth or fabric to protect my incision if I had a C-section again. If I don't, it's not an issue, but I would need someone to help me take that thing off and on throughout the day if I had a C-section. If I didn't, I'd probably just wear the binder by itself and then put my pants and, like my diaper, if I'm wearing a diaper because of the bleeding, over it. One thing I did not struggle with, though, speaking of diapers, is incontinence. And I did my Kegels every day for about 30 minutes throughout my entire pregnancy. And I think that my pelvic floor, ironically, is actually a lot stronger after birth than it was before. So that's something I would definitely do again. Work out, eat healthy. I'm already at my pre-birth weight. 3 weeks postpartum, and I think it's because I was very intentional in my eating throughout my pregnancy. So I'll do that again in a heartbeat. And I think another thing that I would like to do differently, if I can, is really emphasize rest. And I think I'll be able to a little bit easier next time because I know what I'm doing. Like when you're a first-time parent, there's a huge learning curve. Everything that you're faced with, you have to learn how to do. So, we're YouTubing. How do you put your stroller together? How do you get it up and going? How do you bathe a baby? How do you burp a baby? How breastfeeding videos, like there are things on the next baby that you might have to tweak, but you won't have to learn again, because you've already done it all. And I think that will be very advantageous. I do expect there to be another huge learning curve with how do you manage a young child and a baby. And I think that will also present a challenge with attention and emotion because, you're going to want to love on your baby that's 1.5 years old or 2 years old or whatever. You're going to want to be loving on that baby while your attention is also on caring for the new baby. So that will be a balancing act. And then figuring out time, that will be a balancing act. But I think that's just a matter of preparing, just kind of like we did now. And then we'll be figuring those things out versus learning how a baby works, and learning how we work as a couple because we quickly fell into a routine in the hospital. Then we fell into another routine when we got home, and now that Brandon is back to work, we are on a third routine. So we're learning a lot about how we work as a couple too, 1 year into marriage, with an infant. And I think some of those things will be ironed out on the front end in a way once we have our next baby. But those are some conversations I think I would like to have before having another baby, is just like, what is this going to look like? What are our expectations? Who's going to watch our first baby while I am caring for the second baby, and so forth. So I think a postpartum doula could also help fill in the gaps. Because our big challenge this time, we're waking up. Our big challenge this time, waking up a lot, is just like keeping our dogs exercised. So that's another thing I think I'd want to be really aware of the next time, is like, what's the plan for the pets? Because for at least, 4 to 8 weeks, we are going to need extra help with our pets and with our yard care and stuff like that. So that's what I'd do again and what I would do differently. And on that note, I'm going to go change this little girl and feed her again. Talk to you later. Bye.